Alright guys, what I'd like to do is welcome you to the Module 6 intro video, let's call it. Module 6 is going to be all about soldering and circuit boards. It's also going to deal with a little bit of soldering some wires together, okay? Now what I'd like to do is really just talk to you for a minute, explain how the module is going to be laid out, because it's a little bit confusing. It's not like some of my typical modules where we kind of start at one point and we just build on it. I've got us kind of jumping around. So what's going to happen is we're going to start off and we're going to be soldering some wires together. Now, soldering wires is very important. It creates a much better bond than if you were to use maybe some crimp connectors or something like that. We're then going to also be throwing some heat shrink on it. We're going to go over all of that information on how to do it, get you doing multiple different types of soldering on wires. Now, you might be asking, like, what is soldering? Well, the difference between like soldering and let's call it welding or something like that is soldering is actually not going to melt down that parent metal. What it's going to do is it's actually going to melt onto it. So it's almost going to be like a metal glue. Now, let's take like welding. Welding is actually going to melt that base metal, and it's going to have that bead is going to be all melted. So it's all going to become one piece. While soldering is a little bit lighter duty. It creates a lot better conductivity. It's great for those wires. It's great on circuit boards, okay? So like I said, we're going to do our wires first, and then we're going to jump into an area I call prototyping breadboard activities, okay? Now, a breadboard, we're going to kind of go over what a breadboard is. What we're going to do is we're going to build about 10 different activities on our breadboard where we're going to start very basic, like we always do, and we're going to build you guys all the way up till you're building a pretty difficult lab. Now, the reason I wanted to do this right in the middle is because, one, we needed to go over some of those smaller components, and two, I wanted you guys to get your hands on them before you were actually soldering them onto a board. And it's kind of like the point of no return. If you solder something on a board, you can get it off, but it could potentially damage the board. It could potentially damage the component. It's not a fun process, okay? So like I said, what we're going to do in that section is we're going to go over all of those little circuit, kind of circuit components. You know, we're going to go over the resistor, we're going to go over the LED, we're going to go over capacitors, transistors, okay? We're going to show you all about those and individually, and we're going to try to do an activity where we explain how those relate to that circuit, okay? So, and then we're going to finish up with, as always, our kind of more of our capstone project. It's going to be the soldering to an actual circuit board. We're going to do a practice one, but then we're going to actually do one big lab where we're going to be soldering those components on. And then if we have any problems at that point, we can get our multimeter out, test it, figure out what's wrong with it, okay? As always, the testing procedure in this module is the same as in every other module, where we're going to have a practice test, which you can take as many times as you want. And as always, the final for the module will be based on those practice questions. They may not be identical, but they will be very close to in line with them. So if you're understanding those questions, more than likely you're going to do great on that final. I can about promise you you're going to do great, okay? So a few things that I wanted to talk about, maybe more specific to soldering, are some of the safety things. First one being our safety glasses. Okay, you want to make sure that anytime you are doing an activity in this section, you are wearing your safety glasses. There is a lot of danger that is being added with the soldering process that we really need to take care of our eyes, okay? Again, safety glasses are required for the whole lab, or the whole, class, but I'm telling you right now, these things could really save your eyes, okay? If you get any hot solder in your eyes, it's over, okay? So the second thing is horseplay. Now, we're going to be dealing with a lot of objects that are hot, they're dangerous, okay? This is probably one of the more dangerous physical areas in our lab, or in our class, I'm sorry. So I've got my soldering iron here, and a soldering iron is going to get hot. So I don't want to see anybody, running around with these. I don't want to see laying on, some papers or anything like that could catch fire. These things need to be treated with care, okay? So throughout this module, be taking extra care to not hurt yourself, hurt anybody else with one of these, okay? And we're going to go over how to use this and some of the other, safety techniques, such as putting it into the holder, things like that. But just make sure that you guys are taking it slow It's a zero horseplay area. If I see people messing around, you will get removed from the class, things like that. And if you get removed from this section, you will just receive a 0 score on it. So you want to make sure that you guys do a good job and make sure that you stay safe, because again, these could really hurt. All right. So I don't really have a lot else I want to talk about. That's really intro stuff. What we're going to do is I'm going to try to break down everything into individual videos again for you guys. I'm going to go show you how to tin the wire. I'm going to show you what solder is. I'm going to show you how to solder each of the connections. We're going to show you how to use that heat shrink. We're going to show you all of those breadboard labs. And then I'm going to give you a demo on how to solder to a circuit board. And then you're going to actually do that. And once you're confident at or competent at it, we're going to have you move on and actually build the lab. And I'm not going to actually build this lab, and I'm not going to build a lot of the labs in this section. At this point, you guys should really have a good idea on how to read schematics and really starting to get those symbols down. So I have total faith in you guys. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Good luck.